Gentlemen, I will call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order, and we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. The June 10th meeting, which was a regular Budget Committee meeting. The June 15th was the public hearing, and then the follow-up meeting on June 16th.
Motion approved, all 3.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. First item on our agenda is a recommendation from the insurance director regarding the county's contribution rate for health insurance that will be effective January 1, 2011. And of course, you have already met Mrs. Stinson. So glad to have you back. And if you will explain this recommendation, please.
Okay. Previously, the rates for option 1 for the 2011 renewal rates were approved by the committee. The BOE met with the Rutherford Educational Association, and they actually agreed on a 77% contribution rate by the county. The employee portion stayed the same, but it does have an impact on the budget, so I wanted to bring this back today. I also wanted to ask that we give consideration to making that contribution rate by the county consistent for all employees within the county, both in county general and the Board of Ed, so we don't have a difference in the premium amounts that we're paying out. Tomorrow we have our insurance committee, and so we are requesting that we have a tentative approval on this pending the insurance meeting tomorrow and their approval as well.
Keeping the employees, you said it would be the same, but what's the county contribution then? That's more?
The county contribution would move from what was previously approved at 75% to 77%.
What would that come into actual dollars then?
Based on current enrollment amounts, if they were to repeat themselves through the open enrollment period for 2011 elections, it could have an impact of $204,000. Now, last year, we were able to move 66% of the elections off of option 1 into option 2 during the open enrollment period. And if we had that same experience in this election process, then we would have a $134,000 setback on that number. So you'd have roughly $70,000 there that you would be looking at as the net impact.
And of course, the biggest impact will be on the school's budget,
Right.
because they've got the most bodies.
Right.
For the employee, on the average employee that's in option 2, stays in option 2, what will this do to their?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. This is
Okay.
only affecting option
Only
1.
option 1. Well, the ones that are in option 1 and stay in option 1.
Or they can
What will
move
it
to
do-
option 2.
What will it do to them above and beyond what previously approved?
Here are the numbers right here.
Yes, they
Approximately
are.
just-
If you look at the information
We don't have
on the
that,
second
do we?
page, yes, I've laid it out.
It should have been on your
There it is.
Right. So if you look at the second page, we gave you what the approved rates were, which is in the purple section. The revised rates indicate the 77% contribution. So you can see by tier what that impact would be. At the bottom, I had tried to lay out for you to see what the effect would be on the Board of Ed versus the county general by the different tiers.
Is it all right if I ask the mayor if he has a comment on this? Mayor, you willing to comment on this?
Yes, sir. Lisa and Ms. Stinson and I have talked about this. We think it's fair and equitable for us to go ahead and match the county general people with exactly what the board has done. Our health insurance plan can handle that.
Okay.
I'm going to
Commissioner
look at
Schaefer.
the past, okay, because I think there's been, I don't want to say, differences.
And this keeps
For-
it the same.
Yeah, there's always been differences in the past, right? This will make it,
Until this
Yeah.
current year, 2010.
okay.
You're
And
right.
what was it, the percentage in 2010?
This keeps the county, school board, whatever contribution, the same as it has been during 2010 for option 1.
So even with new employees on the school board, you're going to keep, you're going to, with, at 77%, you're going to be able to spend only this, per employee. So if you have 150 more employees, it's costing more there. Okay, so it's the same. And what's this doing to county general then? This is making the employee's contribution definitely less than it was last year.
It will reduce the
244
employee contribution
The county's part goes up.
slightly less, but not significantly in the numbers. We have, as an example, on the family coverage, it's currently at $116, and it would reduce it down to about $107. I don't know that I had reflected that information in here.
But, well, I guess the other thing that doesn't get with me is that
To 106.
the county general has
116
roughly
to 106.
1,000 employees.
It goes less.
That-
The county
And I
portion
guess
goes
about
up.
that many on the health plan. But board education has around 4,000, right? Or s-
But take note that not nearly that many are on option one. Most of
I
them are over in
know.
option
That's
two.
why I'm wondering.
So we're not changing option
No.
two.
That's why I'm wondering how, 204,000 sounds a lot to me, which to me, we're probably talking maybe 100 to 150 county general on option one.
On option one for county general, you have,
Well, the 61, 49, 6, and
yeah, the
54.
numbers are there.
110, 116, 180,
180.
170, excuse me.
3,
334,
4, 5, 6.
386.
And if you look at
He's
the
got about
bottom.
600 on this school board.
Well, this is an improvement for the county general employees.
Yes,
Now, when
sir.
I first started questioning, is this a little worse on one group than the other?
No.
No.
This is status quo for the school board, more or less, and an improvement for the county general to bring them up to where
And the employee portion-
the others are. Is that a fair
And the
analysis of?
employee portion goes down a little bit.
Yes, it does.
The
By 2%.
The employee portion goes
It keeps,
Yeah.
it keeps the school board employees having a better benefit than the county employees. It makes a level playing field. And so
And
on
it's not worse
option
for either
one, the rates, well, actually, from what we approved earlier to what this is, there is a reduction in what the employee has to pay. But it's,
Just a little bit, maybe 2%.
It's a 2%, right?
but then it still
What
keeps us.
point you trying to get across, Bill?
I
Commissioner
just wanted to
Schaefer.
see it past compared to now, and since it changed last year, I didn't remember. And is this going to be, what we use in the future is what is negotiated with the REA is going to be what the contribution will be for all county employees? Is that the intent? Let's put it that way.
The intent
Okay.
is to keep us all the same.
I move we accept this recommendation.
One second.
Commissioner Bruin,
Contingent
seconded by
upon
Commissioner Schaefer.
The Health Insurance
Uh,
Committee giving its
Yeah.
Just a
same
moment.
approval.
Discussion?
We can't discuss the RNA, just, negotiation thing or what they're going, I mean, this is out there for them to pursue or to take hold of, but
Let's look at this on a year-to-year basis
Yeah.
to see if we're going to match or not.
Yeah.
They could vary apart again at some
They
point in
could.
time.
yeah.
Right.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Fee?
Mayor, you said you think that our monies in our insurance are healthy enough that this won't be a hardship, and you're not
Yes, sir.
talking about a tax increase
Oh, no,
or
no,
anything on
no.
this?
We're well equipped with enough reserves to handle
And I
this.
believe Jeff has, you just said that he had built his budget on these numbers, so.
So the reserves you're speaking of
Are
for
the
the
health-
county general?
No, I'm talking about the health insurance fund itself.
Insurance fund.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, what this does, is it puts the burden on Ms. Stinson's shoulders, right? Since to keep it that way.
That's right. Our training rate was low, which I'd shared with you last time, so we want to keep our plan healthy so we can do things like this.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
The school board, then you said, just be, to hear that again, I guess, he's built his numbers on that, so it really won't be an adjustment here, or should be on
It
next
should
week
not,
or
yes. And
a few months down the road, then.
of course, these are a half-a-year rates. I mean,
Right,
this is, she's
right.
projected it for the whole year, but on a budgetary, it's only a half a year.
A little tweaking, I mean, but we're not talking major.
And, there may be, again, the largest rate increase for the employee was felt in option one. So would feel like some of these people will move to option 2, and it's, you know, it's a little bit different.
Effective January 1.
Effective January 1 rates. So we still may have to do some tweaking in our budget, but
Call the roll, please. Commissioner Bullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan. Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Ely. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, let's move to general fund budget amendments, and we have 2 from the Correctional Work Center. Mr. Salandi. Good evening.
How y'all doing?
If you will explain your 2 amendments and start with the one with the mower. That is first on our
Okay.
list.
We had assessed the situation out there at the Correctional Work Center. We needed some lawn equipment because take the burden off county maintenance to, supply that need. So one of the things we do need is a new lawnmower so we can not just do our property line but also the juvenile area. So this is one of the needs that we have, and we're trying to request this money out of the lieutenant's line number 110, and we did our quotes and pretty much came up with a 6309 to purchase the equipment. It's a Bobcat mower.
Motion to approve.
If you don't, let's do, because he has another very small one here, and he's going to take it out of that same lieutenant's line item.
And the other one is to provide sufficient funding to pay a accumulated leave employee who has just resigned.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
These are 2 different
Seconded by Commissioner
areas.
Seaman, I think.
Right. One's correction and one's juvenile detention, right?
No.
no,
Am I
it's
looking
54-220.
With the mower, he's just going to mow the juvenile detention property over there where they are as well.
We saw this in public safety the other night, and, basically, we're gonna be saving money. He's got the manpower, he's putting these people to work, taking care of this, where we'd be out getting bids to do it, because, people that are taking care of these others are overwhelmed with it. So, basically, this is saving us and getting something for his folks to do, too.
Exactly.
Commissioner Jernigan.
When y'all bid that, y'all just bid on one particular mower?
No, so we took 4 quotes. The others were, a couple of John Deere's and, it was Bobcat. I think, it was pretty much it, some John Deere's and Bobcat.
Any further discussion relative to the motion? Call the roll, please. Commissioner Bullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Ely. Yes. Thank you very
Thank
much. Again, from juvenile detention, Mrs. Duke is sending us a very small one, and we've said for this amount, we will just pass this on to the committee. And of course, this has to come before us because it has to do with salaries. I think last month it was $60-something. Now we're down to $37. This is to provide funding to complete the fiscal year for the lieutenant's account, $37.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sandlin, seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Call the roll, please. Commissioner Bullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Ely. Yes. Mayor Burgess, other public health and welfare.
Oh, man. This is, every year this happens. We need $15,000 more to be sure we got enough money to pay for all the autopsies we are responsible for.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner P. Seconded by
Well, I do
Commissioner
wanna make-
Sandlin or Jernigan.
I do want to make a comment on that. We don't have a choice on this. I mean, it's something we have to pay, it's required by law, so we've got to pay it.
There's only a few days left in this budget year.
Maybe we won't spend the whole amount, but
Right.
anyway.
But at least the funds will be
You don't
sufficient.
get the bill, you don't get the bills until they're on. But we
Call the
can't-
roll, please.
another 90 days, they can't do it.
Commissioner Bullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Elam? Yes. The next item is a drug control fund budget amendment. Good evening.
Good evening.
This is for the overtime and comp.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, she just appears when it's time to be heard.
It's magic.
It's magic.
Magical.
TV in the other room.
Yeah.
You caught my trick.
And joined by Sheriff Jones. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
We would like to transfer money within our budget from our salary account to our overtime account, just to make sure we have covered the estimated overtime and comp buybacks for the last pay period.
So moved.
Commissioner Jordan.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner P. Discussion? Call the roll, please. Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer? Commissioner Elam? Yes. That's all you have tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have anything else, Sheriff Jones?
No.
You just want to hang out with us for a little while?
I'd love to. It's a lot cooler here than where I was.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have the annual grant contract with the Tennessee Department of Health. Mrs. Garrett.
Hello.
This is for local health services, and this is our annual grant. You might just give us the number. I think we're all familiar with this.
The amount, you mean? Yes, $1,793,500 is the grant for this year.
Match.
No, this is
No,
the state,
this
this
is
is
the
the state of
contract.
Tennessee's.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandlin. Seconded by Commissioner Jernigan.
We have those good ones and then we have those matching ones. Which are still good ones, you know. we just always
Call
like
the
to
roll,
check.
please. Commissioner Bullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Elam. Yes. We have the annual agreement with the Tennessee Department of Health for provision of employee services, and this is for a salary supplement.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. Seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll, please. Commissioner Bullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Elam. Yes.
Somebody needs this, they ought to give these back to us. There's a her social security number.
Yes, sir, we,
Yeah.
We mentioned that last night.
Yeah, would you, you want to make sure we do
just
that?
don't recycle that then.
Okay.
Let's do
Thank you
Yeah,
for catching that.
How much was this grant last year, Ms. Garrett, do you remember?
Which one, sir?
The one, the state and the federal, interdepartmental?
This,
I don't have it right off the top, but it was
Is
1
it-
point,
Is it more or less?
Oh, wait a
this year?
minute.
oh, I think
it's a little.
The big contract?
Yeah.
Oh, you remember it, we had the,
1.3 or
and then we added the 2 million, of the 2.2 million is what it was with the H1N1. So then it goes
Oh.
back,
Yeah, and then it came back down to the regular,
normal
Yes.
operating.
So thi-
but we do have the provision in there for the
Salary.
salaries. The full raises that we might
Yeah.
see. Thank you.
solid waste sanitation fund budget amendment. Mrs. Nolan.
This is a request for $200 just to make sure that we have enough to pay out the part-time for the rest of the year, coming from laborers.
Commissioner P, thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Call the roll, please. Commissioner Bullen.
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Elam. Yes. Mr. Sandvig, if you will join us, please. We will start with your general purpose school fund budget amendments.
What are we gonna do on this? Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, Madam
Good
Chair.
evening.
Just that piece is all we want to do. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
off-campus food. I didn't know if y'all would want me to go over that at all, or just look it over.
Okay.
They made a full presentation to Health Command last night about the progress and where we are and where we're going in Kansas School. We're rounding third, headed for home, just about.
Yeah, they're halfway home from third to, so they only lack $422,000 of a
And
project.
that is at current construction prices.
And they've already spent almost $5 million in the total on the other work, I believe. So they've
A
done.
lot of that wasn't county money. A lot of
That's
that
right.
Right.
$2
Christie
million.
Houston and MTSU.
And
and
$2 million there.
Okay, Mr.
All right.
Sandvik.
The general purpose budget amendments. The first one addresses revenues and transfer to federal funds. It cleans up our budgeted 2009-10 revenues, increases the GPS fund balance by $500,000, and decreases transfers to other funds by that same $500,000. This $1 million item that we had put in the budget was because of an audit change. We used to do it informally, and we had to do a formal loan between, or fund transfer between federal projects and the GPS balance. We've been able to get by with $500,000. It's been tight at times, but in the revenue amendments, this is our normal cleanup. The revenue increases offset decreases, but there is an additional $20,500 in recent donations and the $25,500 in related expenditures for those donations. And this amendment holds local maintenance of efforts steady.
Okay.
Yes. And the recommended motion is to increase the general purpose school fund balance by $500,000 and to decrease transfers to other funds by that same $500,000, to amend an additional $20,500 in recent donations and the related expenditures, and to amend the other revenue accounts as presented.
What's the donations from? One of them was for the Smyrna West to be used in staff development. That's $20,500. And I'm drawing a blank on the 18,000.
Other contracted services is $18,000.
Wait, that's where I may be.
Alternative school administration.
Mm-hmm. And that's being used for staff development at Smyrna West. And the 18,000 is, there was a bequest to Daniel McKee Alternative School, and it is being used for a walking track. I'm just a former alumnus of Daniel McKee, I believe.
Gentlemen, Mr. Sandvik is going to be presenting 5 amendments.
Okay.
We'll just let him continue, and just alert me if you have any questions or comments as he goes through these. Substitutes?
All right. This amendment cleans up the budgeted 2009-10 expenditures for substitute teachers by moving a total of $395,995 that has already been in different line items for substitute teachers. No new funds. We are just moving the existing budgeted funds. There are 2 option codes for subs, certified and non-certified, and then moving them to the appropriate major function where we actually incurred the expense. All right, we have 20-some thousand that we did not expend on subs this year. And our recommended motion is to amend a total of $395,995 in already budgeted funds for substitute teachers as presented.
I don't know if it was last year or the year before, they kind of run together sometimes, but the pay for subs were not adequate or something at one time. Are we where they need to be? And I don't know if that was according to the state or another county or
Well,
what. I didn't
just,
know what it was. But we heard some racket off of that.
With the economy down, we have been doing all right in filling subs. We had hopes of looking at a multi-year raise, and that has been deferred.
And the board makes that decision, or REA? Or
The board.
Thank
Number
you.
3, other
The other
expenditures.
expenditures, this amendment mostly reallocates already budgeted non-labor expenditures throughout the 2009-10 general purpose school budget. The total being amended is $740,911, and we are also budgeting an additional $47,789 in state reimbursement revenue for testing. And the state, our testing budget, that one is going up $90,500 for the expenditures. And that's line item 72-130-322. I have a typo on that. And then the other components that make up the big part of that $740,000, $179,851 in additional unemployment compensation, $155,000 for portable needs and higher mowing costs, and $110,000 for custodial materials and supplies. The unemployment compensation, it looks like we've seen a bit of a drop-off in that in the last couple of months, but there will be some long renewals who will pick that back up. The portable moves and mowing costs, some of that ties back to last year. In the past, we generally would do a late purchase order covering, starting us in July, have it as a June PO. We weren't able to this year. Last year we had the higher utility costs hit. Our mowing bids came in substantially higher.
Is there just one company that has the mowing?
We
or
have
is it
two
like
companies.
a
When we
bunch?
had tried one, just with our sheer number of schools, it tended to not be well done. So we bid it out as northern end of the county and southern end.
That's working better?
Yes, sir.
Good deal.
On the custodial materials and supplies, that number really, I wound up doing a late amendment last year, increasing that. We had already kind of frozen our budget. And I asked Ms. Pater, our purchasing agent, to do some analysis, and that is due to higher use of it, of what we're buying, more than prices. And some of our schools used to buy their own out of their school activity funds. That is, we have improved the quality of what we are putting on bid more than we're using it. Double-edged sword there. And then most of these other amendments reallocate non-labor line items within the major funds.
So that's not all schools coming into that one custodial materials and supplies.
That's the increase.
That's the increase?
The increase,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking. That's got to be a bigger number than that.
Mhm.
All right.
The recommended motion is to amend an additional $47,789 in state reimbursement revenue for testing expenditures and to reallocate $740,911 in other expenditures as presented.
Testing?
Testing. This was a late change. We had to increase our testing and evaluation expenditures by $46,993, and we're able to use already budgeted communication expenditures as the funding source. The communication funds are available because of changes to the state contract and the way E-rate's being handled. And just in all of our concerns last year over how state funding was coming through, I missed that this is now a partially funded component of the BEP. So the previous entry recorded the state reimbursement. I was thinking more of it would be paid, but it just flows to the BEP. So. For the fifth,
So your recommended motion there?
is to approve amending $46,993 to $72,130,322 testing and evaluation expenditures, and to amend $46,993 from budgeted communication expenditures as presented.
Number 5, certified staff adjustments.
This amendment is a late adjustment of $20,733 in certified staff line items in the budget. $862 in related benefits is also being moved. This amendment is primarily due to late staff changes, but there are also 2 very minor budget adjustments. The recommended motion is to approve amending $20,733 in certified staff line items and $862 in related benefits as presented.
Is this an individual raise or something?
No. The 2 budget corrections were both under $500. And we had someone out on leave who came back. And as I do my payroll accrual, I was doing an accrual for that person not being here. Well, he or she came back. So I had to catch up there. And in the librarian line item, probably a similar thing happened. But in these lines that don't have a lot of people, if there's a late year change, sometimes it won't hit until June payroll. But it'll adjust their summer the way we do it. So it can wind up being a big dollar amount, relatively speaking. But, just their routine.
I'm fine with that. Going back up to number 4 right quickly on the communication expenditures, what is that? What was left there before they pulled the $47,000 out?
Oh, gosh.
Is that
Let me see if he's got it over here.
I have it as May.
That's where I wish, that I had, I guess, the full budget part of that.
It's
Where you
in
can
the
go back
backup.
and see what's left there, what we put back in it.
158,000 is in the budget.
That is split in 2 lines. In 72,320, our original budget was $158,000. No change to that. And year to date, as of 5/31, we had expended $72,233 of that. For the phone and communication lines that are charged to Office of the Principal, our initial budget was $645,000.
And I have about $25,000 left now at the end of the year, basically going back into the ending fund balance on that one account. If you're spending 46 or 47,000 now. somewhere
2 months
No.
expenditures come out of that, though.
Yeah, not all the expenditures have hit, and we had $167,000, $68,000 billing from the state that came in June. That is split between those 2 lines. There's a distinction for, is it a system-wide part of the feed-in, or is it a school-specific?
Commissioner P.
Just a quick question, going back to question 3 there, you're asking for an additional $47,789 for testing.
Right.
Why is this separated? Because that was state funding and this is BEP funding. What's the difference?
Because when we got that bid in from the state, or when it became clear as the reimbursement hit that we were short, we had already posted our agenda.
So that's what the first one is.
And
Okay.
Mrs. Michaels felt it would be less disruptive to the board to make a separate amendment rather than change the previous amendment.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yeah, in the item 3 is, I see where most of these monies are coming from, is that 3 line items. I'm looking at 2 of them in physical services, which is electricity and natural gas. It's about 466,000 right there.
Right.
And the other, okay, and I'm assuming that rates went down because we had a cold winter. And the other one is contracts with vehicle owners. I assume that's the buses for $77,000. And the reason we had money there was what? Gas prices remain low?
No, well, that's part of it, but if you look on that, in 72,710, the transportation area, we wound, the first line item there is being increased by $28,736. We wound up having to have another special ed bus going to and I can never remember which name it's under currently, but what Genesis used to be. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
Learning.
But yes, we had it left, some of our new routes didn't start as early as we had thought they might need to. We didn't have to go into any fuel adjustments. Items like that.
We need a motion.
Well, not yet.
Do the other one. He didn't
We
do
got
that.
another one.
Well, that's
That's something different.
centralized.
Ah, okay.
That needs to be separate because that's centralized cafeteria.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Bullen. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Sandvik? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Mr. Sandvik, the next things you have deal with centralized cafeteria.
The first of them is the budget amendment to clean up the centralized cafeteria, Fund 143 budget for this year. The revenues are being reduced by $464,725, and operating expenditures are being decreased by $230,000. And it is a very conservative amendment that just fixes things that could possibly be audit findings. We still have year-end May adjustments, which I can't do as of May 31st. It sometimes takes 2 weeks before I get the information in from all the cafeterias to evaluate that. And the summer feeding program is still in place, so the amendments will be fine within these. The drop is, we wound up with more kids on free and reduced, and our à la carte sales dropped off.
Okay. And then the petty cash increase?
And then the petty cash increase, we are asking to increase the total centralized cafeteria fund cash on hand by $300, which provides $150 cash bank for each of the 2 middle schools. The total would be $10,650. Each of the school nutrition managers is designated as the paid cash custodian, signs a receipt, and agrees to abide by the county's guidelines for these. And our recommended motion is to approve the 2010-11 $10,650 petty cash or cash on hand request as presented.
Move to approve both of them.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Bullen. Discussion.
The only thing on the petty cash, what are you just seeing a lot, most of everything comes through as a true line purchase. I don't know what.
It's just the cash banks, the operating, to put in a till. Yeah, just that authorization for them to keep the $150 out of the deposit each day.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sandvik.
One question, I didn't have a question really about this centralized cafeteria fund there, but you're bringing those, you're drawing those down, but you have to leave a balance in there. So the balance after this is the remainder of what we've already seen, less this 400,000 here and a 230 over here. Is that correct?
Wait, I'm sorry, which one, what do you
The-
want? The first one?
Under
On the first
Basically
one?
400, yes.
Other one.
On the cafeteria
Mhm.
item.
Reduced, they're being reduced by $464,725. And the operating expenditures decreased by 230. I'm just saying, you bring that total balance down that we saw in the cafeteria fund under our other night, under the budget there, you're drawing it down 464,000. So the remaining balance then would be what's left.
Well, the net of those is about 230,000. Your net income is down $230,000.
Yeah.
really
And it
the
won't be
difference in those
down
two.
that much. I didn't have good enough information typically tend, May and June, we tend to run at somewhat a loss. There's several months where we run at a loss. There's some of a full month tends to be fairly profitable for us. It just depends on how the kids are out. So I was afraid I probably could have reduced expenditures $464,000, but at that point I was not comfortable showing which line item I'd reduce. We are right on target for that fund, at looking at and we tend to look at the revenue, look at the labor, look at the benefits, look at the food cost as a percentage of revenue. We are right on target for that. And we will probably increase our fund balance again this year.
Gotcha.
Mrs. Nolan, self-insurance fund transfers.
If you would, skip past the amendment so I can talk about where I'm coming from on these numbers. The one with all the numbers. Fund 263 is where we pay out all the claims for property casualty expenditures. Various other funds pay into this fund. This is the fund that we received an audit finding on. The bottom box to the right, we ended this last year with a deficit of $240,000, and at the beginning of this fiscal year, we transferred about $300,000 into it to try to take care of that one and hope that what we had budgeted during the year would take care of all our appropriations, all our expenditures out of here. I've broken this out in some sections. This is just on how I came up with how much I'm going to need based on what our reserves are at the end of the year, and it was as of June 18th that I've got these numbers. Right now, I am expecting that we would close almost $600,000 in the hole. And it's because the auditors require that we have to post what our outstanding reserves are during the year. In this fund, I've broken out the major funds that are contributing to this, but I'm on the far right in the second, well, after the first dark line. In total, we've received $934,000 in receipts and revenues, and we've paid out almost $1.3 million. So we have paid out more than what we've taken in this year of $338,000. That added to the deficit that we began the year is where we come up with almost $600 out. So then I have to look at which particular funds are short, starting on the county general side, and I am now under the second dark line. My cash balances as of June 18th, I had almost $195,000 available cash to pay any of the claims out of the general fund, but my reserves that the third party has set up is $804,000. So I'm about $610,000 short. So this is where I come up with the number of needing $600,000 out of the general fund. I've already have $30,000 left that I haven't transferred, so you'll see the amendment at $570,000. Solid waste, in that same process, I'm short about $71,000, but we're doing the amendment for $70,000. Highway Department will be paying in about $35,000 to take care of their shortage and give them a little extra room. The 210, as you just come across this line, is that the school board has contributed $210,000 more than what they have reserves set up. So they've got an extra in this fund. So all that to say, the two amendments are the $570 for the general fund and $70 for solid waste. If you would go to the next page, the way I've given this information to you several ways over the years, and one time was that every single claim that they had out there, this I've just presented in total based on the area, and the way they do it is kind of by building. So the largest reserve set up is for the detention center, which would include the sheriff's department too. The next is Rutherford County office buildings, which is, could be several different office buildings. It's just how it's laid out, but this just kind of gives you a sense of where some of the claims outstanding are in the general fund. So, that to explain why, on the First Amendment from the general fund is a request of $570,000 for judgments coming from the ending fund balance to pay the reserves, to have sufficient cash available to pay the property and casualty claims. And then out of solid waste, $70,000 from the fund balance. Now, this sets money aside. For example, the general fund sets money aside to pay the reserves, claims that come through the reserves. Next year, we've got budgeted next year $900,000. If we do this, we probably hopefully won't use that next year.
We don't have any choice. We've got to fund the insurance fund. I mean, we could
We're
move
funding the
around a
reserves.
different way, but
Yeah.
you've got to have the money there when we need it, so I mean.
And what this does, and it changes, it changes almost every week of what the reserves are based on what our third party determines, and we'll take a snapshot at June 30th, and that's the amount that the auditors will require me to set up.
Is it
as
not better
reserves.
to change it on a monthly basis as you go down the budget year, or is it best from the auditor's
They don't really
perspective
care.
as far as end of the year where
Their focus is going to be, how did you end?
how did you end?
Mhm.
And so it's better for us then to adjust it at the end of the year instead of month by month.
Right. I mean, because it'll fluctuate. To me, it's better for us to do it at the end of the year.
It's just a little bit better pill to swallow, though, if you're doing it a little month by month instead of right here at the very
At
end,
the
they're
end.
going, no, we got a little over
Well,
$500,000.
you kind of
we
hope,
gotta
as you're
adjust
coming
it.
through and you're saying, oh, I think it's okay, we'll be all right. Oh, we're not going to be so good.
Yeah. We've seen the roller coaster really on a month to month. But I mean, I'm just saying that, I'm just suggesting, is it not better for us to do it on a month by month?
I tell you what I
instead
could
of
do. What
doing
if I
it at
just,
the end of the
what
year?
if I report quarterly, how we stand?
We're tying up staff time and
Yeah,
all,
it's-
come up with
yeah.
a
It's just
monthly
going-
budget.
And the number doesn't really
amendment.
mean anything until the
And-
very end.
Bottom line, the end of the year when it means something.
Yeah, it's keeping finance department busy, bringing another budget amendment through every month. The insurance committee, I guess.
Quarterly sounds fine.
Whatever.
Well, if I could just tell you
mean, it just-
how we stand
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
fund, which, again, I did this as of June 18th, in 2 weeks. Hopefully, it's not going to change that much. I know from the time I did it from the 18th to where I looked at it this morning, the reserve changed
You got a motion to fund,
$15,000,
Sandy?
so.
Madam Chairman,
I
I
will.
suggest we follow the finance department on this, that's what they're paid for.
We're doing both again?
While I was doing this one, you want to put them both together?
Yep.
I think we, yes.
The solid waste and
Yeah. From general, one is general fund and one is solid
Make a motion, we
waste.
put them both together
Thank you.
and approve.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Mrs. Nolan, you've been telling us we were going to be doing this. A resolution to close certain government funds in compliance with Gadsby Statement 54.
And this is closing out the balance left in the development tax fund and transferring it to the general fund. There's a slight difference in numbers because we do have a balance in the development tax already set up as transfers out.
Now, on a question on this too, how are we going to deal with that on a ongoing year basis? Are we going to deal with that quarterly or monthly or? This right here sets us up
This
for
just
the next year,
moves
but I'm
that,
talking
it
about
moves the
what's coming
balance
in.
over to the development tax. We will still do what we do every month. We'll get the long sheet that tells how much development tax we've received, And I'll just remind you what we budgeted. Half of it goes to debt service, half of it, the revenue is going to automatically go to those two funds.
Yeah.
But you'll still be able to see, every month that we made, how much did we get. And I'll just, like I said, I'll remind you what we budgeted in total.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner P., thank you, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yeah.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P.?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Okay, gentlemen, we're ready for a final review of our 2010-2011 budget, and if you will locate this sheet, it should be at your table. Should be with all of your papers.
And this is what I call the optimistic, this is one that I just passed out right before we got in.
Yeah.
The optimistic view. Looking at, we still, it's Joe Frank, leave that. Set to Joe Frank.
Mr. Shaker, give him this one. I can share.
Can
Lisa
share
and
this
I,
one?
we're okay.
He's got two. That's why I'm enjoying that
Okay. This is, as I was saying, this is my optimistic view on where we'll close. We had payroll hit this week. We still lack 3 days of payroll to hit our budget. As of today, we have not spent $6 million of our appropriations, though we still have, all the major payrolls have hit, so that's why I feel a little better about improving what we're showing on our fund balances. Now,
But.
no, that's
Don't do it,
it.
don't do it.
It's like, okay, I struggle with this each time about, okay, where are we really going to close? But I tried to, and I said,
Don't set us up.
I'm in my
for Monday now,
optimistic.
don't.
It'll be somewhere between the 12 and the 14.5. How about that? But this presents just what we have done and talked about all along. I just have improved a couple of the fund balances. The beginning.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Bullen. Any further discussions or questions for Mrs. Nolan? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P.?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. The next item in your packet, Ms. Short has asked us to hang around at the end of the meeting and sign this letter. She has the original. This, unless we could do it, unless we could actually.
While they're all here.
While we're doing this, if you could, we could be doing it. She's going to pass it around now, and you can be signing it, and then just pass it back up to her, please. That is just the official letter.
official pen.
No. That's the wrong one.
Don't tell me I print up one.
No.
Yeah, that's the wrong one. I didn't print up one.
Well,
You can sign that.
I've got the
Start that.
official
We did-
You've got the official one.
You can start that one around. Start that around. Okay, gentlemen, we are ready for the 2010-2011 tax levy resolution. And you will notice that Section 1 breaks out the property tax rate of 2.4652, and of course that is using the 4 places past the decimal point. County General receiving 55.4 cents. The Ambulance Service Fund, 8.79 cents. The Highway Fund, 0.9. The General Purpose School Fund, pretty much $1.14, a little bit more than that. Capital Projects Fund, about 4.5 cents, a little bit more. Debt Service, almost 63 cents, and that's how we get to our total of 2.4652 for our certified tax rate. Section 2 explains how the business tax will be applied. Section 3 deals with the sales tax revenue. Section 4, wheel tax revenue. Section 5, development tax revenue. Section 6 explains how interest is split among the funds. And that is pretty much the entire detail of the property, the tax levy resolution. Thank you, Commissioner Jordan.
We need one more signature. Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. Call the roll, please. Commissioner Sandlin, seconded.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Pease?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes. Next, the appropriations resolution. A resolution making appropriations for the various funds, departments, institutions, offices, and agencies of Rutherford County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2010 and ending June 30, 2011. The general fund appropriations total $68,093,511. The economic development fund, $219,858. Solid waste sanitation fund, $3,381,474. The ambulance service fund, $10,052,418. Special purpose fund, $6,000. Drug control fund, $669,176. Highway fund, $9,392,505. General purpose school fund, the appropriations total $256,801,110. Central cafeteria fund, $15,396,032. Education capitals project fund, $2,287,420. And debt service fund, $40,714,454. I need a motion for the appropriations resolution. Thank you, Commissioner P.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Sandlin. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bullen?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ely?
Yes.
Could I ask something about what we did just before on the tax levy? In sections 2 through 6, the percentages, the way that some of these funds, how long has it been since any of those have changed? Do you have any idea?
2002.
2002. Thank you.
Okay, under other business, Mrs. Nolan needs to present a draft to us of our fund balance policy.
This is still complying with GASB 54, and it is draft. I sent this to our auditors today to make sure that they agree with what I've done. The first part is just the purpose of doing this, and it's just explaining that a lot of it is to comply with GASB 54. The second part is the definitions, and remember that was our first lesson on GASB 54, was all the definitions.
This is the paper you wanted the other night. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Okay. The second part, that second page, then talks about reservations of fund balance and how different things will be. And we talked about restricted fund balances, and that's the things that have restrictions above us, whether it could be grantors or contributors, or if laws that are approved above us. And I've listed all the things that I could think of that we typically reserve fund balance, old word, that will now be restricted. Kind of gives you an indication of all the revenues that come into the general fund that really are restricted as to use.
Have you looked at, if you subtracted that amount of the list I'm seeing here, what percentage of that would that be of our
Small,
okay.
small.
Well, have you got a percentage?
No.
Okay.
I just know it's small.
Kick that around, I'm curious.
I mean, it's very, it is a very small portion with the largest portion of our revenue coming in is property tax. You know, the current levy, that's the largest portion. Okay, then we come down to committed fund balance, and I have 3 things. And what I did in developing this policy is use and pull all together all those things that the commission has approved over time. This first one is talking about the development tax. I have it as committed, but in talking to our auditor, it needs to move up to restricted. Because when you approve the development tax, it was through a private act. The private act gets approved through Nashville, and that's why we decided, well, we probably need to just move that up a level and call it, those monies are restricted for capital and restricted for debt service. The other 2 items, we would have called that designations, and that money that we receive from renting the facilities at Land Agri Park that y'all have designated in the past to be used for improving those properties out there at Land Agri Park. Also, the donations received by Rutherford County Pet, the paws, that you agreed that the monies received there could be used for improvements for the facilities and property and into their program. 3, the assignment of fund balance. This will be when we close this year. You know, we're going to use over $1 million of fund balance in the general fund next year. That's what we've planned. Projected for next year. So that portion of fund balance left over is going to be assigned to be used next year. That's what this is explaining in number 3. Designated carry forward. Yeah. Then the number 4 is non-spendable fund balance. The only thing we have in the general fund is we typically have prepaid items in there. Last year was only $33,000, but that is reflected in your fund balance that you really can't spend. You've already paid it out. You can't spend it again. This next section talks about the minimum levels of fund balances, and all I did is take what you've already approved, changed a few words. Instead of undesignated, you see I say unassigned fund balance. And we have minimum levels in the general fund and the debt service. And it's virtually the same thing that you've already approved. I've just incorporated it in this document. The last part, the last section is disbursement of fund balance revenues, which is how do you spend it? And we're setting out, we spend restricted first for the purposes, followed by unrestricted, which then is committed, assigned, and unassigned last. And then the very last section, it just says that we will be reviewing this every year to determine what should the balances be. Now, this is draft form. I'm not quite sure if they're going to require me to, if the school board has to do, I still have a couple questions if we have to do this for the school board in setting those requirements up for you. And then Ms. Ely brought up in the ambulance department those contributions that we receive for donations for their paramedic scholarship, if I have to set that out in the policy. So just to let you know, if I can, if you know, how I've submitted this to say how far do I need to go with this. So it may change, but I just kind of wanted to give you some exposure. They want me to, they want you to approve this, Comptroller's Office. They want this approved by July 1. So I did want to give you some exposure to it, so you'll probably see it again.
Will you hear back from them by Monday?
So you're planning on this coming up on the 28th?
Yes.
With some minor revisions?
I've got the major sections that they want in there.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Sanders. All in favor, please say.
Actually, we're just approving it to send to full commissioners what we're doing with revisions maybe from the company.
And it is a draft, we'll have some changes. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed?
Thank you. We do have another item of business, and Mrs. Stinson is going to join us again.
We thought she was just hanging out.
Enjoying the
Get those apart there.
Do we have enough of these?
This is a subject I know that you all are very familiar with. This is in regards to GASB 45 and what we're going to do in regards to our retirees. Originally, it was decided that the effective date of any changes would take place at the end of June. In May, Mayor had asked for a subcommittee to be developed to review and take into consideration some of the discussions outside of the meeting. And in doing that, one of the areas that we would like to present to the Insurance Committee tomorrow is to move the effective date from June the 30th to August the 31st to allow the Board of Education to return for the school year so that they have all of their employees back in session. And for those whose insurance will carry through the end of August, they will be actively at work, teaching, doing whatever their job is within the Board of Ed. So we wanted to bring this forward today to ask that you all consider moving the date, so tentative on the Insurance Committee approving it tomorrow.
So moved.
Commissioner Bullen has made a motion.
Well, I'll second it, but this is two things in a row. I'm on the insurance committee, it's coming up and we're passing.
It's tomorrow.
I know it's
Contingent
tomorrow.
upon.
but it's-
We have it backwards this
You're gonna
time.
feel it's gonna feel a little heavy-handed to the insurance committee to say, the budget committee has already approved this, what are you gonna do? And I've got a little bit of a problem
They
setting a
kicked
precedent for
around.
this. I know we're in the time crunch and all, but, and there are some people that start date, this is gonna help out. That were gonna be left out of being able to retire because they were 15 days out or something, but moving this 2 months, there's gonna be somebody right on the other side of that threshold also and stuff, and I don't know, I've just got a bit of a problem getting,
But most
not
of-
going through this
yeah.
regular chain of command.
Ain't the insurance committee been discussing it, ain't it?
Not this.
Well,
Not
This
this.
has not come up at all. We've already done what the insurance committee, approved, and that was kind of painful, and we got it behind us, and now we're opening it back up, and it's probably fine. I'd be interested in knowing how much this is estimated to cost the county and how many people it actually affects, but I think it's a bad precedent to be setting, and I understand.
Or if
we're
we
in
could
a
just let it
do or
know that
die.
if it's okay if we bring this forward next
But if
Monday.
it fails at the insurance committee tomorrow, is it dead?
Well, until we revisit it again at the insurance
Or do
committee.
you take it on to the full commission and say the insurance
No.
I
committee
would
said no? but-
almost like the rate contingent upon.
I put contingent upon the
I'll make my motion contingent upon.
insurance approval.
Yeah, well, I think that was understood, at least I thought that
Yeah.
the whole time. I just worry about starting too much, starting down this path too much.
Do we know how many people this does affect or what it
I'll
does?
second Mr. Bullen's vote.
Okay.
It's already got a second.
We had a second before, and we
Okay.
just made that assumption, Commissioner Bullen, that it would be contingent on the approval of the insurance committee. Thank you for clarifying that.
Well,
Assume nothing.
What is the problem with bringing it to us Monday, not voting on it today and letting them?
I don't have a problem.
them
I just,
look
I
at it
hated
first?
to have something through insurance that it didn't, at least you have some exposure to it before we
I think
came.
we've had some exposure to it now.
But we did this, but this basically happened back with the first part also, but it went through regular channels, but we did change the date back last year, I believe, a couple of months on the initial that we've changed.
We got a little ruffle too. I mean, Jeff, how many is this affect?
Well, Mr. Sandby, would you like to come up and join us?
When Ms. Noah and Ms. Stinson called me yesterday, and we talked, I think it was yesterday, we talked about this. My initial thought was, we had all the discussion when we made our previous set of changes to the 30-year group and all. We initially were working with a June 30 deadline and moved it back because we got the interpretation from the insurance department at that point that June 30, we were lopping off some years of service for our teachers because they start in August. So even though they had completed 10, 20, 30 academic years with us until we moved it to the end of August, that they hadn't completed calendar years. So this makes it more consistent with what we did before.
Sounds better.
In hindsight, this is what we probably should have done to start with.
Yeah, and it didn't cross my mind until y'all called
From some
me.
people said their hire date was like August 6th
Right.
or August 8th or something like that.
That's typical.
And they were that close,
Oh, yeah.
5 weeks out from being grandfathered in or being able to keep their, when the packet, what they were, so. But undoubtedly, as soon as we do this, there'll be somebody that started, September 1, and they're gonna miss it by 1 day,
That may be true. I think this is going to take care of
Majority
a
of it,
substantial number
yeah.
of people that have been really concerned.
Yeah.
And how many, what is the number that's substantial or that's?
It depends on who's counting. Between
I want
Sonia and
you to
Lisa,
count. I'm
it's
asking
less than
you.
less than 10.
I
that
count
we've
3 or
had-
4 I know
That we've
of,
had
you know,
serious
'cause I
feedback
work
from.
on
Okay,
people.
It can't be many.
I mean, I've had
That's
to call
This is gonna
myself, so-
affect.
It's less than, it's single digits almost, we think.
Okay. Less than 15 would probably be pretty
That
safe,
would be
right?
more
Okay.
than, yeah, it's not that many, we don't think.
And while I don't like opening it back up, it's a huge change for those 6, 8, or 10 people, however many there are.
Just a quick question. What is the earliest age that someone could retire, keep their medical benefits post-retirement? What is the earliest age and with how many years of service?
Now or before?
Well, I mean, like
I'm talking about
now,
now.
now, if anybody
30
who's
years
got
of
20
service.
years of service as of, if this all approves, August 31, if you've got at least 20 years of service, only 5 years on the plan, you could be 55 and 15, or any age at 30. 30 years,
But
if you have 30.
Previously,
If
it
you
was
were a whiz
15
kid,
years.
you
so
could
it was
graduate
more
from
than-
high school.
55, but still that group is the 55 and
So it's
15.
50.
Well, here's the question, the
Yeah.
kicker with this is, when we say 20 years of service,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking only service in Rutherford County, or are we talking about?
Service in
someone-
Rutherford County.
So they've got
This-
to have a minimum of 20 years service in Rutherford County. If they have 15 years, that's what.
Or
it's
30
confusing.
years.
Right, I mean, they could have more. But it says 15 years of service here, so.
55 and 15, that's what the terms were
No, I'll give people.
previously.
That's when we saved the $200 million
I can
in
guarantee.
liability between
Right.
now and 2023
Right.
by making the changes, because it was
So,
Pretty-
very
so
liberal.
again, the minimum is,
In that first group, the youngest age could, you said how was the
well, if there's
youngest
more than
somebody
one-
could be?
What is,
If
if
somebody
there's
is,
more than one group, I want to hear that
some are
too.
grandfathered in.
that's what I'm saying, some are grandfathered in.
Right.
So 30 years service, any age, so you have a kid who started with us 18, they could retire at 48,
Okay.
okay? But that's in the group.
That's the grandfather group.
Yeah, that's the grandfather group, that's 20, so that's the earliest somebody in that group could do. Then when you start moving down on the other groups, it still is, they have to be at least 20 years of service, or any age with 30. But they have to be on
20 years of service in what age?
60.
60.
But down the sheet.
If they had 20 years service and they were 55, what do they do in that time period?
They,
And they have no
they're
benefits?
no, if they're in that group, they need to be, they have to be 60 and 20, or 30 years at any age.
So let's
If
just
they're-
say somebody's got 20 years service and they're 55.
They need to work 5 more years.
5 more years.
Well, if they don't want to work 5 more years for health reasons or whatever, I'm just saying that, suppose, is there a cutoff, and can they be reinstated when they're 60?
No.
No.
So they have to be continuous. Okay.
But after,
That's what I wanted
Right.
clarified. All right.
but after August 31st, you can't be, and unless you were a grandfather, you can't be 55
You
and
can't be
30. You gotta be 60
You
years
could be
old.
55 and 30, 30 in any age.
Okay, gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion relative to the motion?
Well, I feel more comfortable not even voting on this motion until after insurance sees it. But, if we do vote on it, I'm going to say no. We let them say it was a mixed vote when it went back in.
Call the
If
vote,
it
please.
passes.
Commissioner Bullen,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
No.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes.
I guess I better maybe put a caveat in there, whatever it is. This does not affect myself or my family in any way, because my wife is a member of the Board of Education, has carried insurance for 20-some years or whatever.
And it doesn't affect mine either. I mean, I've just had a lot of people call me that work in the school system and are asking me questions about it, and I want to make sure I understand it thoroughly. So,
And we put this on the web so people can go through and kind of see where they are, where they fall.
Thank you. Thank you very much for staying. Any other business that needs to come before our committee?
I had just one little announcement. Our 61st Blackman Barbecue will be held Friday night at the Blackman Middle School. The reason we moved it over there, it's a larger area. We can have air conditioning, so it starts at 5 to 8 this Friday night,
25th of June?
25th of June.
Those will be reruns, so it's too late.
Gentlemen, if you will indulge me for just a few seconds. Gentlemen, if you will indulge me for just a few seconds, I want to give some personal thanks to this group. First to Mayor Burgess. Mayor Burgess, thank you for sending us a strong recommendation on this 2010-2011 budget proposal. Because of that strong recommendation that you sent, and also with cooperation from the department heads, this budget process was much easier. A special thank you to our finance director, who is responsible for installing and maintaining a financial accounting system for us, and assisting officials in making sure we have an efficient management of our finances. And she does it in such a pleasant way, in such a pleasant manner. Thank you for being so easy to work with, and thank you for
My
being so
pleasure.
readily available to me. You've been such a help. It is quite obvious how much time and effort goes into documenting our budget proceedings and all the processes. So special thank you to our Deputy Finance Director, Ms. Short, for the minutes and the detail that she includes in them. It is so important because the commissioners have so much information that they need when they get ready to make a vote. And a special thank you to you gentlemen on this committee. We've been through a few budget processes together, haven't we? And I appreciate so much your support of me and your encouragement and your help. And I especially am assured when I come to these meetings that I'm working with a group of competent veteran commissioners, and that's good. Thank you so much. And I really have to single out one gentleman at this table, my mentor and my friend sitting at the end of the table, Commissioner Bullen.
Thank you.
Thank you for the advice and the counsel you have given to me over the years. I value that. And I have been entertained by your stories and your lighthearted jokes all these years. Can you imagine how many times we have been at meetings when the climate got rather tense at times, and he would diffuse the situation with one of his stories or his lighthearted jokes. Now, I can also remember a few times when it backfired and it didn't work, but, but we won't talk about that. But I want to tell you, you are leaving a strong legacy to this commission. And when I think of you, you are an example of someone who has served in this position for all the right reasons. You are special to me. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. I've been here 24 years, and I served as budget chairman for several years, and you're the best budget chairman we've had by far, so you've been terrific. And
So, gentlemen, I am really happy with what we are sending to the county commission. I think we're sending a good budget proposal, and I look forward then to Monday morning and just passing this right on. Thank you for everything you've done. Any other business? We are adjourned.